The ASN-sponsored National Course for Renal Fellows, the Origins of Renal Physiology, is an annual event at the Mount Desert Island Biological Laboratories in Bar Harbor, Maine. Nephrology fellows drawn from programs across the country attend the course that provides immediate immersion in renal physiology, allowing the fellows to perform experiments that generate data and helps them focus on data analysis instead of data acquisition. Working directly with world-class faculty in the laboratory to analyze the data, fellows have the opportunity to present their work and its rationale in a setting that encourages peer review, discussion, and insights about the implications of their results. Former participants have reported that the course has not only excited them about research, but that it was the best and most important experience of their first year of fellowship. In this episode of the ASN Kidney News Podcast, ASN interviews Mark Zeidel, MD, Chair of the Department of Medicine at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and the course co-director. Dr. Zeidel, what is the National Course for Renal Fellows?
This is a course designed to get our renal trainees to become more familiar with the basic principles of renal physiology at a systems level. And it is really designed for any trainee, but for two types in particular. Some who are going to become investigators may have spent a good deal of their time in the laboratory already or be planning to spend time studying a very small part of a system, a molecule or a particular behavior signaling pathway in a cell. And the course, by recapitulating classic experiments in animal models, marine species, will allow them to get an understanding of how what they are studying relates to the overall role of the kidney in homeostasis, maintaining our blood chemistries, and in helping the organism to adapt to challenges in its environment. For those who are going to be clinician educators, the course offers the ability for them to really understand renal physiology at a level where they can explain it. So rather than teaching from the standpoint of we always do it this way because there was this clinical trial, they can start their explanations to their residents and their students with a discussion of, well, how does it actually work? What is it that causes the kidney to do it this way? How does that work with homeostasis? So what we do is bring the fellows up to Mount Desert Island and put them in contact with a really distinguished faculty of terrific investigators and wonderful teachers. And they do experiments that date back to the origins of our field, and these experiments are linked to the latest techniques. So they do both whole animal physiology, or they might do isolated tissue physiology and then move to electron microscopy or patch clamp studies or very advanced biophysical measurements, all designed to study the same aspect of renal physiology.
Tell us about the history of this course. How did it come about, and what was your initial inspiration for starting it?
Some years ago, when I was at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, I was actually working up at the Mount Desert Island lab for part of a summer, and John Forrest, who's one of our course founders, had set up a course for Yale medical students designed to teach them integrative physiology. They had run the course in June of that year. It had been very successful, so I immediately signed up the University of Pittsburgh. And for some years now, the University of Pittsburgh has course for medical students has followed the Yale course, and the students were extremely enthusiastic about the curriculum, the way the course was taught. In order to get into the course, they were participating in a journal club throughout their first year of medical school, reading original articles and discussing them, and were very excited about the entire concept. So when I came to the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, I decided that we would bring our residents to Mount Desert Island for a week-long course, which of course covers more than renal physiology. And the goal there was to get the residents to be more attentive to issues of mechanisms of physiology and mechanisms of disease. And we found that the course had a huge impact and really did focus the trainees, the residents, on pathophysiology. So with the success of the residence course, we decided that we would try to do a renal course, especially because so much of renal physiology was actually discovered at Mount Desert Island. Many of our concepts, such as glomerular filtration, the function of epithelia, the polarity of epithelia, the function of the thick ascending limb, the function of the collecting duct, the function of the distal convoluted tubule, many of the most important concepts were developed at Mount Desert Island, and I might add that many of the molecules, the transporter proteins that we have been studying for years were first cloned and identified at the laboratory. So with that rich history and the ability to use these species to illustrate systems, the systems biology of renal physiology and renal disease, we just felt it was an irresistible opportunity. We recruited an all-star faculty and held the course for the first time 3 years ago. And the trainees just loved it. They felt it was a tremendous asset to their training. Several who were not that interested in research have now decided to pursue careers in research, and we've just been delighted with the response. In fact, a couple of junior faculty members who want to improve their teaching have come up and taken the course alongside the fellows and felt it to be a tremendously valuable experience.
Many trainees will listen to this podcast episode. What would you like to tell them in relation to what they will learn at this course?
Because it's a week-long intensive experience in the laboratory, it gives the trainees the chance to do basic physiology experiments and modern physiology experiments. It gives the trainees, because we have all of our meals in a common dining room and we work very closely with senior faculty members, it gives the trainees a wonderful opportunity to interact with world leaders in renal research and leaders in the academic renal community. And there's inevitably a lot of discussion about careers and directions that people want to move in. Most importantly, it gives the trainees an opportunity to work with fellow trainees from other institutions who are also extremely bright and interesting people. And I think that, and the experience overall markedly enriches their understanding of nephrology and where the field comes from and where it's going, especially since many of the trainees have just finished their first year where they spent an entire year focusing on patients with acute renal failure, dealing with transplants, dealing with the clinical issues of managing renal patients, end-stage renal disease patients. So it also provides an opportunity to take stock and think about the field as a whole and the areas that they find most interesting in the field. It's a remarkable week, and it's transformative.
What kind of response have you received from this course?
Well, everyone who's taken it has given us absolutely flat-out rave reviews. It's astonishing. We give a standard sort of Likert-type survey at the end of the course, and the comments are off the charts. They do, because we encourage vigorously ideas for improvement, come up with ideas of other experiments that we could be doing or things that we could do to even strengthen the modules further. But the ambiance, the cooking, of course, always gets great reviews. The entire structure of the course and the faculty get outstanding reviews. And we're actually going to start having a reunion at the ASN, probably starting this year, of all the people who've been in the course. And I think that a number of people have made, really strong friendships with colleagues in the field from having been up at the course as well. So I think the reaction has just been uniformly enthusiastic.
Why is being able to think about the mechanisms of disease an important part of the nephrology education?
First of all, our field is really rooted in physiology. The understanding of glomerular filtration that led to our current approach to glomerular filtration, the understanding of how tubules transport has led to, and the way the kidney manages homeostasis really underlies our management of fluid and electrolyte disturbances. And the understanding of renal injury and how the kidney can recover from renal injury is beginning to inform more and more our therapy of acute renal failure. So our discipline was shaped by developing a mechanistic understanding of what the kidney does and how it does it, and then using that mechanistic understanding to help humans with disease. And it's one of the most physiologically and pathophysiologically based disciplines in all of internal medicine. So our field really rests on that. And if you are going to look after patients and teach or do research in the field, and if you don't have a real mastery of the physiological concepts, you're impoverished as a professional. You don't have the ability to teach as well, and you may not grasp the overall import of the research that you're doing as readily. And I think this is where we can give the fellows an enormous perspective. Now, the fellows each do 3 modules, but everyone presents their work to everyone else at the end of each of the day-and-a-half-long modules so that everyone hears about the experiments being done in every area. And this is led, I think, provides coverage for the fellows in all of renal physiology.
Other than providing a solid grounding in renal physiology and enhancing the perspective of renal investigators, what do you think are some of the downstream benefits of taking this course?
Anyone who takes it is going to be a far better teacher. And all of us, those who end up in academics and others, a huge proportion of the renal community comes in contact with residents and medical students at one time or another. Many of us teach pathophysiology in tutorial or in lectures in medical schools, or also teach on the wards. And when you have patients with electrolyte disturbances, acid-base disturbances, and you have this perspective on how the kidney actually functions, and you bring that to bear to the trainees, I think it just enlivens the field. I think it will help make the field a much more attractive one to future trainees if, as residents, they hear about mechanism rather than about, oh, this is what we do in this situation. Anytime you fire someone's intellectual curiosity, you make the field much more attractive. And this is a downstream way of attracting more people into our field who will then make important contributions in their own right.
What is the cost of the course?
Well, it costs about $3,000 per trainee, but we have received a generous grant from the American Society of Nephrology, and we've also received a competitive grant from the National Institutes of Health. So we're now able to offer the course for $900. The cost includes everything. Once you get to Maine, lodging, all the food, all of the laboratory fees, everything that relates to the course is completely covered. And we offer free transportation to and from the site in Maine from Boston. So basically the trainees have to get to Boston, and we'll drive them up and drive them back. So if they're coming in by train or by plane, the cost of the course is the $900 tuition and the cost of getting to Boston. Now, we are in the midst of discussions with 2 potential corporate donors. We haven't concluded those discussions, and they may come forward, as they have in the past, with support. And if we receive that support, then there will be no cost for the tuition. So I'm hopeful that we can offer the course at no cost, but at present, the budget is $900 per trainee.
Where can those interested learn more about this course?
Well, so we have a website. It's the easiest way to do it. It's at the Mount Desert Island Biological Laboratories website. So if you Google that, you'll come up with www.mdibl.org. And if you click on courses, you'll see at the bottom of the page is the Origins of Renal Physiology. And if you click on that, you'll see the website for the course, and you can pull up materials, and the application is right there.
Dr. Zeidel, this is a wonderful opportunity. The Society is proud to sponsor it. And thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
All right, well, it's a real pleasure.
ASN Kidney News is a publication of the American Society of Nephrology. The ideas and opinions expressed by participants in ASN Kidney News podcasts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the positions of the Society. To lead the fight against kidney disease, ASN helps its 11,000 members provide high-quality care to patients, conduct cutting-edge research, and educate the next generations of kidney care professionals. To learn more about ASN or Kidney News, please visit the Society's website at asn-online.org. Thank you for listening to this podcast of the American Society of Nephrology.